It ends with me alone on top of a shattered elevator in a hellish pit. The box that once held several people now completely destroyed, except for a few parts of the wall where the electrical panel is fried and the roof I'm using as shelter. Like the elevator, my soul and spirit feel shattered and broken given what I have endured. It is impossible to be certain how much time has passed since the maintenance man died. My phone is at a measly 8% and the charger I once had is long gone. I feel the need to scream, angry at what this place has done to me and at others that were with me. I repeatedly check my notes to remember their names: Sydney, Amanda, Phil, Nick, Chloe, the little girl. I've forgotten all of them. I realize in desperation as I occasionally look through the open hatch to the void below. I had hoped with the monster dead my memories would return, but soon I discovered that there are still remnants of it around me. I first felt the need to get a good look at the roof when I heard what sounded like breathing. It was so dark I couldn't see my hand in front of my face, so I activated the light on my phone and saw something that made me gasp in horror. Long pulsing meshes of strange goop that resemble cocoons line the roof of the elevator in different spots. All of them having strange dark shapes swim and form in their gestating sacs as I examine the horrid scene. I do not dare imagine what is within these pods as I push my body a little toward the edge of the roof and try to keep my breathing steady. These must be the offspring of that monster. I realize as I see one of the pods was partially broken apart and purple mist occasionally spits out into the air. I make sure to not get anywhere near it. I can't get too close to the wall either to avoid my skin scraping against it, so I'm in an awkward position trying to figure out whether any spot on this roof is safe. I shine the light toward the wall and notice something that I couldn't see before. It's on the opposite side and it resembles some kind of box jutting out of the frame next to the rail that constantly lets the elevator rise. There is just enough room on that side of the cage for the box to slide by and disappear into the void, and I'm puzzled by what it could have been. It's at that point I realize that I didn't really pay attention to the walls and I keep the light focused there to see what else might have been hidden in the darkness. A short time later I notice chalk paint against the cement and it's forming symbols. A number and a letter, D3. My heart skips a beat and I try to see if I can find any illumination from the lobby. Have I almost reached the surface? I turn back to the wall to watch it crawl by and see something else not too long after that. Another box. This time I can tell there is emergency equipment inside of it, a fire hose and a fire axe. Something that rescuers would use to attempt to rescue people trapped here. I move over carefully toward the wall, but I don't make it there before this box disappears as the elevator continues its upward crawl. I told myself not to get hopeful, but I can't help it. The thought of this nightmare finally being over is enough to make me cry. My phone buzzes and I notice it only has 4% of life left. For some reason I choose to ignore that and keep the light trained on the wall. I am eager to see the next chalked floor number as it gradually approaches. My eyes squint and I find myself confused by what is painted on the elevator wall, E3. I don't let it fully sink in until about 15 minutes later when the next chalk pattern crawls. By end it's the same numbers again, then like clockwork I see the emergency equipment. And then again 15 minutes later the same pattern, again and again. I told you. All of this is meaningless. A voice echoes across the roof. I snap to attention and find myself staring at the army private, what little of him I can remember. You should have taken my offer when you still had a chance, he says as he plays with his service pistol. He puts it against his head and before I can even look away, the gun goes off, blowing apart half of his face. He remains sitting there, unfazed by the brutal act of violence as I realize what is now happening to me. You're not real. I'm hallucinating from lack of sleep, water, and food. I mumble as I try to look away from the hole in his head. Doesn't matter if I'm real or not. You know what I'm saying is true. This whole damn situation has just been an exercise in futility. The hallucination tells me as it points the gun toward the chalk paint that crawls by. You are never going to get out of here. Which means all of them died for nothing. He cackles, shut up, I snap as I force my eyes closed. I can't even keep the voice away there as I hear his words rattle in my brain. That monster is going to devour you and then sink back to hell, and every last shred of your memory will be gone. No one will even know you were ever here, it says. My hands tremble as I slam my fists against the roof. Do you even know who you are anymore? The voice asks. I don't have the power to admit that I have forgotten. You don't, do you? You're just a stranger in a nightmare that will never end. So what does it matter if you live or die? Who will ever know or care? It hisses. I open my eyes and I can see the hatch where the void calls to me below. The voice is telling me to give up. They matter, I say, standing up and looking at the wall where the hallucination once was. I am going to make it out of here for them, I tell my inner demons. There is no response this time. For the moment I have a small victory, but I see the chalk number crawl again and I feel my heart sink. This creature has still exerted its influence over me and kept me here trapped from the surface. My first guess is that it must be whatever is inside the cocoons, and I decide that I have to destroy them. Moving toward the side of the wall where the box moved by, I use the short tongue. I have to reach for it and smash the glass, grabbing Dex. I hold it firmly and slam the blade down on the first writhing mass of goo, making whatever is inside wail in pain. The shriek causes the others to begin to pulse and then ripple open. I see strange forms begin to emerge from the cocoons that almost resemble people. None of them have faces. The newly spawned demons begin to move toward me and I slam the Dex down against them over and over, hacking away at their misshapen bodies. One of them starts to claw at me and I feel my body being pushed against the rising wall. Dropping Dex, I use what little strength I have to push it toward the open hatch and listen to it scream as it plummets. There are a few still left. One of them picks up the axe, swinging it toward me violently and hitting an artery in my shoulder. The only thing pushing me forward right now is the human spirit and the sacrifice of others. I slam my head against the monster and pull Dex away, slicing its head clean off. The last monster stands ready to tackle me, its long snake-like arms bending impossibly as it stretches its new body to attempt to swallow me. Oh, there is enough time for me to smash Dex against the elevator roof itself near the hatch. It's been barely hanging on for hours now, and this final push causes the entire roof to groan and bend. The monster falls into the newly created hole, desperately clawing at me one last time before it too is swallowed by the void. In the same instance, what's left of the elevator roofs groans again and I brace for the fall. Instead, everything simply stops again and I sigh in relief. The monsters are gone and for the moment I am still alive. Then I look toward the other side of the wall where the paint is etched in the cement and I see something that gives me a final push to keep fighting. B2. I stare at it a moment longer to be sure I am not hallucinating this. With the nightmarish creatures gone, I have broken the spatial cycle and the elevator is almost near ground level. But it is pointless to celebrate as I realize the fight against the unknown has halted the progress of my rise. I will be trapped here. No, I can't think like this. I haven't come this far to be forgotten now. I push myself over toward the hatch to get a look at the broken electrical panel and I see there is some faint sparks between the wires. Whatever the maintenance man did some time ago has simply stopped working. I have to find a way to make sure I keep going up. The box where I found the Dex is within reach and I tug at the fire hose, pulling it all down onto the roof of the elevator. Tying it around my waist, I tug as hard as I can to be sure the hose will hold my weight. Once I am sure that I can make it safely, I descend from the broken hatch to the void. I have nothing holding me except the taut fire hose and it feels real to dangle above an endless chasm, but I can't focus on that. I push my weight back and forth gingerly to swing toward the electrical panel. The strain is a lot for me and it feels like I could fall to the void at any moment. At last my hand latches a hold of the broken panel and I reach for the two wires. I have no idea if this will work or not, but at this point I have nothing left to lose. The elevator makes a noise and the roof begins to go up slowly again. I let go of the panel and pull up on the rope. knowing I have only a few seconds to grab a hold of the roof before it leaves without me. My body feels heavier than it ever has before, and I am scrambling to find something to latch onto. Tugging up again, I grab at the broken hatch, the deep metal making my hands gush with blood, but I push through the pain and force myself up and over. The fire hose is still tied to my waist, but I have to let it go or risk being sucked below as the box disappears. So I cut it loose with the axe. Then I collapse into what is left of the goo as the elevator crawls past level B2. A short time later, I see the chalk outline for B1 and I there, excited for what is to come. I can see the outline of a door, the safety door to this level, just barely above me. I am almost free from this hell. The roof shudders and groans and slows down. The door is almost within reach. Then the elevator stops. I close my eyes, trying my best not to panic, but it does little good. The elevator does not move again, nor will it ever move. I scream at the top of my lungs, standing up and reaching as high up as I can for the door. My fingers can just barely touch the bottom of the frame. Escape is just out of my reach. Help! I scream as I bang my fist against the wall, hoping that there is someone on the other side of that door who hears me. But my words just echo into the emptiness. I keep doing that for the next hour until I am unable to scream. I've lost my voice. I slump down to the roof of the elevator, curling my legs up toward my body and begin to shake with despair. I'm never getting out of here. The soldier was right. I fought as hard as I could, and this is the end of the line. I pull my cell phone out, looking at the cracked screen. I have full signal now. Not the occasional like had for days, but it matters very little because it's sitting at 2%. Not enough time to plan a rescue even if I knew where I was. A final desperate solution forms in my broken mind. I grab the axe and turn to the door, reaching on my tiptoes to pry it open with the axe. Just barely enough for a small object to slide through. I am going to stand on my tiptoes and slide this phone through that opening in the vain hope that someone will find it and rescue me. I doubt I will be alive much longer with no food or water, so I won't waste time taking note of my demise and simply say goodbye if this makes it out. It means that they found me or my corpse. Either way, the story of our struggle in this hell will be found and told.